morning, everybody. Greetings to everybody. My name is Ronnie Carrasquillo. I am a community navigator here at Illinois Prison Project. Today we are recording for our December Lunch and Learn. It is a continuation, the topic about thawing out. Today we're going to speak about from frozen to thawing out, and it's called part 2. And I said in there, healing begins when safety no longer means silence, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So this is a continuing conversation from last month's November, and we'll hear more from people who have been impacted by this concept of thawing out. Our guest will share insight on how incarceration altered their very existence, the tools they've developed to leave behind unhealthy behavior adopted on the inside. This lunch and learn brings real perspectives from individuals, what they experienced while incarcerated, and the effect it has on people we love. This conversation features 2 panelists who, upon their liberty, now work for programs dealing with reintegration, and 1 panelist, although is not directly impacted, worked with impacted people for almost 5 decades, my sister Data Mercado. The 2 panelists are David Rosa and Yolanda Pena. My personal story is 47 years being frozen, you can say. I spent 47 years in a confined space where I lived in trauma as it was a normal everyday experience. And my experience became learning how to push back against that through the hope that I was gonna be free. However, I'm still fighting to thaw out. Thawing out is working to understand the differences between incarceration and society, and working to let go of the burdens that came from the inside. Continuing our conversation from November that Gigi had, we'll hear from more people who have been impacted by this concept of thawing out. The purpose of today's episode will be to discuss surviving from carceral bondage to thriving in liberty. You know, the question that I would ask either one of you to answer will bring you into the play. You know, you can say a little bit about yourself first, you know, of what you're doing, or the time you spent in the prison. And of course, my sister didn't. And then we'll go into these questions. So I'll give Yolanda the microphone for a few, and then David Rosa to, you're certified. You're certified by your walk and your time. So, so to present yourself, announce yourself and your name.
I got you, Ronnie.
There you go.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Yolanda Pena, and I am co-founder of Life Impactors Foundation, which is a reentry organization helping men and women coming out from the carceral system, helping us stabilize them out here, giving them, basic needs, helping them with workforce development. We have a temporary supportive housing for the women. And we chose that because there's so many for men, and there's a lack for women. And me, that I was just as impacted. I came home 25 years ago. I did 2 years in the carceral system over at Dwight, and some of it in Logan. But for many years, I felt I did the invisible bars. There were invisible bars, but out here, it's very hard trying to acclimate back into society. But yeah, here I am. I am a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 12. And I say that proudly. But yeah, this is who I am. We are located in the northwest side of the Chicago land area. So
okay, you have the credentials.
My name is David Rosa. I was incarcerated back in the early 70s. I got out in 99 after doing about 25, 26 years. The good thing about that, the fortunate thing, when I was released to a reentry program, which kind of helped me through that process that we're going to be discussing today. With that, I had to get reacclimated with family and everything like that, just like Yolanda had to do. I went to a program called St. Leonard's House. And I finished the program there, started working for them. I also became an administrator for housing. That's where I became more involved with housing for the population, for my population, the reentry process. I've seen how difficult it was for individuals that are coming home that didn't have nowhere to stay. Learned just so much that I invested at least over 20 something years in housing for formerly incarcerated individuals. Not only that, we're trying to launch a program right now called Voices for Transformation for individuals who are coming home. We're going to be starting up a resource center on the north side of Chicago, northwest side of Chicago, Humboldt Park area, hopefully soon. And then we're going to start doing for housing. I think housing is critical for us who are coming home. I think we need more places where individuals who are coming home can be stabilized. And once that stabilization takes place with individuals, everything opens up for them because we take away what is most important, for them trying to find a job, trying to, pay rent. So those things are taken care of while this individual get his life together. And so moving on, I just want to say that, in regards to the topic, in regards to thawing out, as I was talking to Yolanda earlier before the recording process started, was that, the question is, do we really thaw out? And as we go and as we move forward in this discussion, I'm pretty sure that we're going to find that we have not really thought out, but we learned how to deal with it. We've learned how to take on the resources that we need to get our life better, so that now we can help people get their life better moving forward.
So I would introduce my sister as I brought her here. Hopefully she can speak that she has, because I spent 47 years incarcerated, and she has the experience of not only working to help me become free and now help me to thaw out, that all my friends and everybody's associated to me. So she's well practiced in the field of, and I want to get her perspective of what she sees, whether
Okay.
we thawed out or whether we didn't thaw out. So go ahead and speak, Data.
My name is Data Mercado, and I was impacted by the incarceral system by my two brothers, and my life touched many situations that others cannot understand.
So we'll go from there. So listen to the question. It's very it's a unique question, a reality question, and it says, from what kind of frozen behavior have you carried from the inside to the outside, if any? And once you realized it, how did you thaw out or practice to stop doing that?
Frozen behaviors that I carried from the inside to the outside. I think one of the biggest frozen survival behaviors I carried was the hyper independence and emotional shutdown. And I feel like inside you learn quickly that showing your vulnerability and emotionally or mentally, it can make you a target. And so I learned to keep my guards up. Trauma, that's what you learn, right? And so to stay observant, and not, rely on anyone. So, just needing the control and the routine to feel safe. And so if things didn't go as planned and my body reacted before my mind, could kind of like catch up. That was one of the things that I feel like, it was one of my frozen behaviors. And I feel that another one was just the emotional like numbing. So I can go through serious moments and conflict and loss and even like joy without fully feeling them. Um, but that was a survival tool on the inside. But on the outside, it started to disconnect me um, from my family and relationships and just myself as well. Um, and I could say that just the process, like to beginning the process of trying to thaw out, right? Like that's not something that's instant. And it's like what David says, it's not something that kind of like fully just goes away, but it requires to be awareness first, right? And I had to recognize that behaviors that once kept me safe were now keeping me stuck. And so I feel like the biggest shift for me happened when I gave myself permission to feel without that judgment. And so that meant slowing down, noticing my reactions, and reminding myself that I'm not in the survival mode anymore. I'm not in that type of environment anymore. But just trying to practice out is just allowing myself to pause instead of reacting, letting trusted people support me, right? Instead of doing everything alone. I would say giving my nervous system, time to recalibrate, and extending myself grace too when only by my, behaviors just resurface. So, thawing out for me is still in practice, even that I came home 25 years ago. But it's unlearning survival while learning to feel safety for me.
You know, piggybacking on a lot of the things that Yolanda just spoke about, those things are the reality for everybody. There's no way that we all can face the same type of trauma and basically come out with something, a different definitions. In some cases you can, I believe. This is just my belief. Because sometimes when we talk, we can identify. It may be a little bit different, but we can identify with each other because we all experience the same thing. So, the things that I brought home with me was the fact that, how can I trust somebody out here, now that I'm in a different world? Because when you step out, this is a whole different world. It's just like when you stepped in. When you first got incarcerated, you first, heard that the doors slam. You're in a whole different world, right? And so the thing about it is that getting yourself prepared how to deal with the things in that world. And so some of the things that I brought out with me was, the distrust that I had. It was kind of to the point where, can I trust this person? Can I really talk to this person? So those walls that we come out with, it had to be to a point where it took a process for me to break them down so that I can. It's not about me coming out; it's about letting people into me. And so those are the things that we learn automatically when we got locked up. What individuals can you bring close to you? And then you have to really think, is this the right individual? And so those things, I brought those things out with me. The other thing is that, how can I do for myself? Because, being locked up for, 25 years, 40 some years, they do everything for you. And now you're out in the world where, guess what? You got to step up to the plate. You got to talk. You got to let people know. So, and then finding that, as Yolanda put it, that nervousness, right? That where you keep to yourself, and you don't want to, you kind of scared to raise your hand in the back, right? So those things that we have to overcome. And the best thing that I found that to help me overcome was, again, the program that I went to. There was people there working for that program when I found out that they were formerly incarcerated also. And here they are working, and then I kind of sat down with them. I looked at their process, what did they do? What resources did they use? And so, and I think that's the thing, the key for all of us, Yolanda, as she said earlier, she got grandkids now, she's married, they got a program. Those things that we use to escape in, is the resources that we use to, for that thawing out process to help us through that process there.
Yeah, I would like to mention when I was listening to you and what Yolanda said about, and I came to the conclusion like we had a commonality. I've been hearing this lately from quite a few individuals saying that I stick together and I'm comfortable with the people who were incarcerated. And it's unique to hear that they're comfortable there, but outside other people, they feel indifferent like that. And I was in that position. So one of the things that I caught myself doing and I didn't even know the terminology that Illinois Prison Project program created this, calling it thawing out. I never looked at it as I was frozen. We always kept it like, man, I'm top of the game. I'm all this and I'm all that. You don't look at or you don't perceive negativity. And when I came home and my family would ask me something, and I was in this society, I related everything back to the other society. Well, what we did at this time in there, we done this. Or when they fed us like this. Or when they go to the commissary, no, we did that. And everything that was new, I was in a new setting, I related it to the prison. And I woke up after like 90 days saying that, man, I'm still, my mind is still in jail. I'm still, and my family was like, you're still up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're safe. You don't have to get up at 4 in the morning. And I'm like, on that gear that I have to be in control of that. At 4 o'clock in the morning, nobody can bother you and you're up and you have that time. So you cultivate that space. So that's what I had. In my case, I had to, one of the things, because I got many more that I'm seeing that I haven't thought out from. So I'm gonna ask another question. Then I got a good one for Data, so she can warm up and be intense right now, wondering what are we gonna ask her. You know how you're in the audience and you're always like, "Oh, are they gonna talk to me?" Yes, we are. So the next question is, what method did you use to rebuild, like you talked about, David, about that trust and connection? How did you cultivate that, to where you're at?
Yeah, I think that rebuilding trust is one of the hardest, but the most transformative parts of my healing journey. And trust didn't come back, through one method. It came through layers of intentional practice. That's how that is. And I want to say that through the first one, like community reintegration programs, um, being part of reentry focused spaces allowed me to be around people who didn't need an explanation for my triggers or my reactions. We can all relate, right? And that mutual understanding created safety for me. Knowing I wasn't alone, it helped like soften my defenses, and this is what we do with our reentry program. And so, and the other one with allowing vulnerability, for me, this was uncomfortable at first, but I learned to share parts of my story in pieces, not all at once. And this came years after, because when I came home 25 years ago, like we didn't have that space like that to be able to like share our stories. And for me, even like my parents, that shame, right? Like was like a taboo, like not talk about it. And so vulnerability, it didn't mean it didn't mean oversharing. It just meant it being honest about where I was emotionally. Each time someone held, that truth with care, just trust grew. Um, for practice flexibility, I would say like incarceration, it trains you to survive through structure. And on the outside, flexibility is necessary, but also scary. And so just practicing breathing through changes, uncertainty, and choice without shutting down or becoming like rigid. Flexibility, it became a healing muscle, right? Um, for counseling, for me, I say counseling helped me connect the dots between my body responses and my past trauma. And so it validated that my reactions made sense, and it gave me tools to create new responses instead of repeating old ones. And and um mindfulness, it just grounded me in the present, right? So simple practices like breathing, checking in with my body, naming emotions, like it just helped me realize that I was in a safe place now. I was safe now. So it gave me a space between a trigger and my response. So that's what it was for me.
All right, Mr. Rosa.
Ask the first question again. I'm sorry.
It says, what method did you use to rebuild trust and connection? Because like, when we were incarcerated at a young age, you and I, we were together, and we practiced and we taught each other, don't tell the next guy your story, don't your crime, don't tell them, because so many surrounding factors, they would bring people to court and say, he said this, and I heard him say this on the gallery. And we had so many different, a lot of racial things back in them days. So we basically shut off. Our silence was our safety, so how did you rebuild that trust now, as you came, what factors did you practice to come out of that? How did you cultivate your rebuilding?
I think that, and again, it's the similarity between when we start speaking about these things, because we kind of like, it's just like Yolanda, she hit on some points that I'm saying to myself, wow, that was me, that I already went through that. And the thing is that, when we locked up, it's like Yolanda said, we're in a mindset of survival. That's what we have. That's all we do. We constantly scan around our surroundings to see who is who, what's where can I go to, and so those things there. When you come out with that distrust. And then how do I deal with it? Well, I dealt with it in regards to, again, I went to a reentry program where everybody there basically was on the same mindset. It's getting their life together after incarceration. And I think this is, going back and touching bases, what Yolanda said was that she was with an audience there that, what, she didn't have to hide herself. She didn't have to feel vulnerable, because she was talking to individuals who basically came from the same perspective that she came from. And I think that's when we start our communications at. That's when we start tearing down our wall. They used to have what was called a rap session, right? Where individuals get together and they talk about different things that's coming from them on personal levels. Those things there help me, because as I seen other individuals open up and tell me about their traumas, it kind of helped me in my process. Now, did it happen right away? No, it did not, because I still was scanning. I'm in that group, right? And I'm seeing these individuals every week when we go to that group, but I'm still scanning. I'm still looking at individuals the same way I was looking at them when they were locked up. And so even though they opened up, I wasn't ready. So it took a while for me to get ready until I found myself to saying, okay, I can let a little bit of my vulnerability open up to them, because the simple fact is that this here, I want to be a part of this group. I want to be a part of what they're experiencing, right? And so I open up. And so this is where I look at that the wall, you start tearing down that wall. Individuals who you start bringing in, you're making yourself vulnerable just a little bit. And going back to Yolanda said, it's been probably a little bit more than 20 something years that I've been out. But guess what? I still carry all that. I'm still when I get in a group of people, I still put myself to a point where I want to scan, right? It's on a different level now. I might be amongst, let's say, all of us, right, in a room. I'm still coming in there. I'm still scanning. I'm still looking at who's who, what's there, what's going to come. So that there, to me, that's going to be something I'm always going to carry with me. But have I learned how to make myself more vulnerable? Yeah. I think that helps me a lot, even with family, with relationships, those carry the same thing. So, to me, I just kind of feel that, am I 100% to the point where, I can say, what, that past doesn't mean nothing to me? No. And will I ever get there? Well, I'm 68 years old right now, and guess what? I still carry it with me. So the thing about it is that something that's keeping me surviving out here? I don't know, but for the most part, I feel that, that it has kept me to the point where I never stepped inside a jail cell since I've been out.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so, not even for nothing, I haven't got pulled over driving in over maybe 10 years, because it keeps me to the point where it keeps me alert on how I got to do my life. One thing that I tell people all the time is that if there was nothing else that the penitentiary taught me, it taught me how to be patient. It taught me patience. And that was something when I came out, I carried with me, and I learned, and I felt good about that. I'm glad that I did get that, because you will know that when you're locked up, you can go to a med line or whatever, and you're feeling bad, and you go up there, and you're trying to plead your case in regards to why, and then when that guard says, "No, go sit down," you know, and wait till you get called. You're either gonna do two things: you're gonna go off and go to sit, or you're gonna be patient and go sit down. And for a lot of us, what I'm saying, that's where the patience started at. And to a lot of stuff, though, in the penitentiary, you can't get things the way you want to, right? And so I had to learn to bring that patience. And that being patient out here has helped me to the point where even some people out here who've never been locked up see that I'm that patient, and they look at me and they say, wow, dang,
Something's wrong with you. Yeah, something's wrong with you.
say something, like something's wrong with me, but if that's something that I carry with me, I kind of keep that. And so for the most part is that I think that surrounding myself with people that are basically trying to accomplish the same thing that I'm trying to accomplish has helped me to that point there.
Okay. Man, it's a lot of things we could go on, but I'm gonna say a little bit about me and I'll leave it alone from there. As far as what did I do to rebuild trust? I think that because we locked in so hard when we were in the institution for so long that people think they told us what to do and they didn't. They had the keys to the door and we couldn't get out. But a lot of times we told them what to do. We told them what we needed and we got what we needed in a sense. So now I was a hard receiver of being told what to do. I didn't like being told what to do. So as I now rebuild trust in my house, I'm fortunate I didn't have to go to St. Leonard's like you did and learn from that programming. I was around family, but at the same time, they mean well and but you could say, so my training and my trust comes back by getting socked up, as we say it. We get socked up by don't wear this or don't say that or you shouldn't do that, and you have to receive it from your family. You have to. But in other cases, I would look at people like I wouldn't receive it. You can't talk to me that way, and you're not gonna. And I'm not gonna take that advice. So that part hasn't thought out. So I have a niece that sometimes I'll be jokingly and say and after I do something wrong that according to the social standards, I say, hey, you shouldn't do that or do that. I say I'll make a joke and say, well, I was in an institution for a long time, and then she one time said, oh, get over it, Uncle Ronnie. So I said, okay, so I got to get over it, but I was blessed to have that family support now to be vulnerable. So what you learn on the inside is that when they tell you one time, lock it up, they say lock it up, within 1 minute or 2 minutes, you got to get your stuff together and you got to get in because you're going in that cell and that you might not come out for 5 months. You might come out for 30. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what happened. So you're going in there. So you learn how to hear something once and you already know your mind clicks to what you're going to do. So in society here that I came home, they have back and forth conversations. So they'll say, hey, do this or that. And they want to or they will emphasize it. But my brain already heard it. So I catch myself because my first reaction is, I heard you. So I'm bringing that penitentiary mentality. I heard you. Stop saying that to me. I already know what I'm going to do. My brain is that fast that I know what I got to do. I heard you. I don't need to hear it no more. So then and it sounds offensive, it sounds aggressive, it sounds abrasive. And I have to catch myself like, okay, this person don't know that I have that in me. So now I have to stand there and listen. Okay, tell me again. Okay, tell me again. Do I know okay, tell me again, to be compatible in this society. In restaurants, I have problems, to go and, get me. I'm still learning how to be thought out to say, ma'am, you forgot this or that, to be that polite person, because I'm still sometimes triggered from in the childhood. Hey, man, you didn't give me what I got coming. And I have to catch myself. You know what I'm saying? So this is the stuff that I'm glad I'm around. I didn't go to counseling. So I got to practice this flexibility and then to be vulnerable like that. And then sometimes I catch myself, I don't want to tell my family. I don't want to tell anybody because I in my mind, I'm like, I could tell them about what I went through all day long. They get the awesome like, oh man, that's bad. I don't want you to have that. I'm just communicating to you. That's what I went through, you know. And then I don't want that wow to come out or that awe. So our technique was, or my technique was, I know at 3 o'clock, they're gonna lock them doors and count. I'm safe at that time and I get to shut off. So sometimes in society, you're like, man, where's that count at? Where's that 3 o'clock at? When I get to shut this off and it don't shut off, you know? So all these variables that I walk with. So I'm learning it. My next question is the great question for Data. I don't know what's going to come out of this thing. My question to her is, in terms of now that you listen to what we said, in terms of the frozen behavior that we spoke of, can you describe from your extended experience with dealing with the world of incarceration, what triggers have you witnessed in me and or others, you know, of basically like not thawing out or the snapback, you know?
I think you just touched on it by the comments you said. Like one thing I think would be helpful for people that are receiving people that are in the carceral system, like families or friends that are going to have people come to live with them, would be some kind of counseling for us. Because when we have someone like, for example, Ronnie, he came home and he went to live with Jesse. So of course, sometimes Jesse would call me and say, hey, like little things that would happen with Ronnie. And so when he came here, I was we were already ready to, I don't want to say deal with, like little things that could happen, but having an addition to the family where you really don't know the person. We know him, we know who he is, we know we love him, but we've never lived with him. So when he came home, it was an adjustment for us too, a loving adjustment. We love having him here, but there was a lot to learn. And the if I had to pick one thing out, would be patience. Sometimes we thought we were teaching, and maybe we didn't have the patience that he needed. So for us, because like we're in society, so it's like, okay, do this, and then and you just say it once and it's done. But we didn't know, like in our minds, okay, it's one and done, but it's not like that. It has to be like 100 and done when it's someone that's incarcerated in that system, because they don't know. They don't know the things that we do, and we take that for granted. So there's a lot. I think the most important thing that we need to learn is the patience and the encouraging that we need to do. We need to encourage, we need to love more. It's a whole package that's coming home, and we unravel it little by little. Now, in Ronnie's case, he's been home now for 2 years, and we've learned to live with each other, but there's still, like you said, there's still like the snapbacks, and it's hard to deal with, because we, like here at home, we have a very calm home. We're not used to that. We're not used to like what he said when he's like, I got that. Well, that's like, wow, that shocks our system as a family. That shocks us because we're not used to that. Like my kids, for example, have never said, I got it, Mom. They don't do that to me. So when we teach Ronnie and he says that, even my kids, like when he's done that, they just look at me like, whoa, even simple things like that. So it's been a learning process, but nothing that can't be learned as a family. I think the basis of that is the love that we have for one another. It sustains anything that can happen, whether it's good or bad, or the learning that he's had to do. And for others that are in our situation, the one thing I would say would be that you just need to learn to be patient and kind. That's all.
That's the David Rosa word, patience. So let's keep going because we have so much time left, and we could be all day.
Can I just say something, Ronnie, in regards to what you said? And I've always said this in the past. I used to have people, family, call me in regards to housing for an individual that's coming home. And one of the things they would ask is say, we want to bring him here, but do you have space or whatever? My thing is this here, I think there's somewhere along the line, and I don't know if it's existing now, but if it's not, I think it can be a resource that we can come up with. I think that families need to be educated in regards to individuals coming home. I think that's a necessity. That should be a part of all the programs because even though we say, you know what, I want that person to come home, it's again, you're getting a package. You may get a time bomb. You don't know what you're going to get. The thing about it is that when that person comes home, what we found in the past was when we interviewed other family members in the past about housing was the fact that, yeah, you know what? He got home. He didn't have no movement for 30 days. They had him shut down for 30. That's 30 days that person's going to be laying on that couch or wherever he's laying at. And then, well, what happened that, everything exploded? Well, you know what? Guess what? He wasn't contributing. Right? Or he just, when he drank the baby's milk, for that cereal he ate, that was it. That's so those things there, we have to kind of find how can we educate families in regards to that, saying, hey, if you want to bring this individual home, these are the things that you got to prepare yourself for.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are good ideas. So let's keep going down the line. I got one question for them. That's a pretty good idea. Not a great idea. Yolanda, I want to ask you can you speak about your transformation from, resistance to thriving and how you thought out, and we spoke about this before, when we're in the inside, you resist so much till you find yourself locked down. And then now you have to use that to transform. So how did you go about this?
Yeah, I think that for me, for a long time, my resistance looked, as I stated like before, like survival, right? On the inside, resistance meant like staying alert, staying guarded, and not letting the system break me. And that kind of resistance was necessary in there. But it was a resistance that it's exhausting, right? And so, for me, like after coming home, I realized, and this again, it took years, right? It took years. Just realizing that thriving it's a whole total different level of resistance. And so thriving meant refusing to let like my trauma or my past, or the labels, right, that people placed on me, define my future. And so it meant choosing, healing, even when survival felt more familiar to me. Um, so from, thawing out into thriving, it's required me to kind of like slow down as I thought about these questions, right? To slow down and ask myself the hard questions like, am I reacting from survival or responding from healing? The other one is like, am I protecting myself or am I actually safe now? So, thriving has looked like allowing myself joy without guilt, rest without fear, um, and purpose without punishment. So it means I no longer only measure strength by how much I can endure, but how much I allow myself to live, feel, and grow. And so every time I choose peace, or I choose boundaries and joy, that for me is resistance. So yeah.
So, David, I got a question. I like that. I got a question for you about what did it take to transition from the practice of, as we spoke about, being silent, of purposeful silence. We did it on purpose. It was a plan and a way of existence during incarceration to purposeful communication society. What did it take for you to transition like that?
I think what it took was that, when being a part of a program that puts you in a position where you have to communicate, because when I was promoted to the administrator of housing, I had to communicate. There wasn't no way I can say, you know what, I don't want to talk about that. I couldn't resist, right? I had to communicate. So I think that my boss at that time, who was a person just like Delia, never was locked up, but had a passion, a compassion for individuals that are coming home. He was the executive director. He was also a mentor to me. And I think he put me in that position because he wanted me to succeed.
Stretch out.
And once I got in that position, I had to say something. I had to talk about what I knew about. And it was just telling my story, and then how do my story intertwines with housing and how I can project that out to individuals. And who am I now? Who I've become at this point in time. And so, yeah, so I think that helped me a lot in regards to being a part of an organization and then having that position, whereas there's no way I can be a head of housing and I can't tell you nothing about housing, right? Or I can talk to you about housing. I can't bring that in a conversation because everything that I knew from the past in regards when I was incarcerated, I had to lay here and say, hey, I had to open up. And I think those are some of the things. And then, the other thing is that having that individual there to say, you know what, even though I stumbled in presentations and talking, is that person to say, put that hand on your shoulder and say, you know what, you did a good job. The encouragement of individuals that I felt that never had any, that could never encourage me to nothing, that was that person that was patting me on my back and encouraging me. And
Okay,
so that's what it was.
that's good. So my next question, we're getting ready to close, is and it's probably for me, I probably can joke about it. You could say I have a unique one. I guess everything's unique to me. What's one unexpected or small freedom you discovered after coming home, that one moment that made you smile and think, man, like, dang, I forgot how this feels. You got one of them moments?
I think for me it was.
Oh, the man first. I like that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I like that. Go ahead. Protocol.
I think for me is that it was a couple things, having the joy of being a part or having my mother see me free and having that joy to be with her before she passed on. That's one of the things. The other thing is that it's just getting up and saying, and having that freedom to say, you know what, I want to drive all the way to Michigan, and I can just get in my car and I could just go, things of. So some of those things there, those little things right there, those are the joys that I see now that I can move forward. And then, that's only a few things, but those are some of the main things for me is to having that freedom that, that right now, a freedom to do this here. And is this a good thing that I've chosen? Of course. And so those are the things that I'm talking about.
What you think, Yolanda?
Yeah, I can touch and agree with him too. Just my family seeing me come home and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's just like you say, that freedom, right? It was being able to, because it takes, what's that saying, that habit of 21 or it takes 21 or 28 days to create a habit, right? And so just even in a short time, the 2 years spending in prison, it's that habit, right? So the joy of it was choosing just my own routine, like when to rest, when to move, when to pause. Just simple things like, sitting in silence with my coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. Laughing loudly or changing plans without, permission. Reminded me, those things reminded me that freedom lives in the small moments that we often overlook. And so those moments for me didn't just make me smile, but they reminded me that I was home in my body again. And I was in freedom.
That's great. Mine was I'm an active, motivated, mission oriented. So for people have to purposefully sit me down, maybe to watch a movie or whatever. And I'm like, what sense does that make? And I can't see myself. And then so to sit down and do it, then when I'm done, I'm like, man, I forgot how to even do that. I got so far entwined in mission that I forgot how to be that human that you could sit there and watch a movie. Or for somebody that's been with me in the incarceration world 5 years, 10 years, or 2, 3 years, and know that driving that I had, the drivenness, and to see me now in society and pull me over and say, and be out somewhere with me and say, I never seen this part of you. I never seen you relax like that. Hey, you're doing good. And that like hits an emotion like, man, and it tells you on yourself. It told me on myself, like, I gotta purposefully do this more often, So in closing, I'm saying thank you for of the Lunch and Learn. And up next, we have more information on resources that can help you or your loved ones thaw out. And in the conclusion, I have and I have wrote this. I used to count the years I lost like crazy, and now I count the lives that I've touched as I went through all my processes and seeing people come forward. Hey, he did this or that, and it's unusual to see that. So for all of us who are impacted, we cannot get our yesterdays back, but we can live in this moment. And at Illinois Prison Project, our belief is no one is the works act, and no one is beyond mercy or redemption. In that grace, be patient with yourself and leave room for growth. For those who care about individuals who are thawing out, I leave you with this call to action. Although you may never be able to fully understand without living through the things we've discussed today, it's important that you listen to these stories. Go back and watch the previous Lunch and Learns to hear the truths of those who are system impacted. So today's Lunch and Learn ties back to our Thawing Out Toolkit as a framework for understanding the emotional realities of reentry.
This toolkit is a social. Why do I keep saying social? I think I'm seeing social and emotional, and I'm like combining them together. Okay. One more time. Today's Lunch and Learn ties back to our Thawing Out Toolkit as a framework for understanding the emotional realities of reentry. It's not an easy fix, but a mirror for self-reflection. This toolkit is a social, emotional resource created to help system-impacted individuals understand the emotional, mental, and interpersonal challenges of reentry. It covers key areas such as self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship building. They are illustrated through realistic scenarios and tools that promote reflection rather than instruction. It gives language to what many experience but can't always explain. It talks about the internal freeze of incarceration and the slow, uneven process of thawing out. It's a tool for identifying what needs to be healed or thawed out. Thank you so much and have a good day.